Welcome to Blasted or Stash It special podcast edition, where Mighty LJ and myself look over the book Papergirls. So this is her first venture into podcasting, so let's go ahead and jump right into it. Welcome to Blasted or Stash It podcast. We got a new show for you today. We're still trying to think of the name on what we want to call this. Comically Married, Loving Comics. We're not sure what we want to do. Maybe we can pitch out to you guys. Give us some ideas. Because this is kind of like, I'm going to call you, LJ is kind of new to comics things, and I've been kind of experienced a little bit further. But maybe give us a name. Throw us out there. So this episode we are looking at Papergirls from Image Comics, written by Brian Vaughn and art by Cliff Chang. So this book here came out in, I think it was 2016 is when the first issue came out. We're looking at the first trade, which covers issues 1 through 5. The story is set about 4 girls who are paper girls in their town. They come across some supernatural things as they're going along. It's set in 1988. Yeah. So I guess we'll go and start there, which was kind of cool, I thought, because 1988, these girls are 12 years old, right? That's right about the age we would have been in 88. Yeah. So what'd you think of that? That was kind of cool.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of interesting to have it at that same time period. It brought actually a lot of memories back. Just the way that their use of language, the cuss words that they used, the kind of the slang that they used seemed just like old home. A lot of things that I forgot about. Use of language that we wouldn't even use today. But it was interesting, and the way they talked to each other, and even their hairstyles was took me back to that time.
Yeah, that character Mac, who's the vulgar girl, the badass, she definitely used some language that is not would not be acceptable today.
Yeah.
So I was actually kind of shocked when I read that, and I went, "Whoa, wait a minute," But I guess he's really trying to tell a period piece story and using accurate language to that time. I mean, everybody called everybody that back then.
Yeah, and even I don't want to. There's a part later on in the story where they talk about an issue that wasn't accepted back then that's pretty normal in their time. So it was interesting to see how they drew attention to that later on in the story.
What part are you talking about?
So in here, some of the language that they use is derogatory language that that was used frequently to homosexual people. And then later on, one of the guys that's talks about how he's fighting this fight because of what somebody did to his boyfriend. And one of the girls goes, "Ew." And then he's like, "Oh, that's right. Your time is so much less tolerant," or something like that. I just thought it was interesting how they kind of took that piece, kind of the stuff that we're experiencing, and compared it, because times were really different back then when it came to that stuff. I remember using those terms when I was little, thinking that they were no big deal because it was normal, and now it feels icky to think that I used that kind of language back then.
Now, there is one of the characters later on, because this is still an ongoing series right now. I think it's up to issue 26, but I think it's going to be wrapping up pretty soon. One of the characters is gay later on in life. One of these girls, I don't remember which character that is, and I think they kind of hint to it a little bit in here. They don't come out and say it, but they definitely do talk about that. We're kind of reading it remind me of Stranger Things a little bit, because Stranger Things is set in the 80s. Kind of remind me of Monster Squad a little bit, flashback to all those 80s things, like you said before, how those things, like, oh, wait a minute, 1980s, I remember, talking like that, or I remember experiencing stuff like that, or stuff like, I keep seeing stuff like that a lot.
Even, like, the bikes that they're using with the banana handlebars and stuff, and today you wouldn't see 12-year-old girls running around at 4:30 in the morning delivering papers, just because of safety reasons. But back then, they weren't even concerned about the safety issues. The big deal back then was that the girls were allowed to deliver newspapers. They kind of talked about that in here, about how this one girl kind of set the stage because she took over her brother's paper route, and she was the first girl in their town to be able to deliver. And so nobody's really paying attention to the fact that these are 12-year-old girls out in the dark delivering papers. The bigger deal is that they're allowed to do it at all.
And you have 4 characters and 4 very distinct personalities too. I mean, you have Mac, who's kind of, like I said, the vulgar girl, the badass girl. You have KJ, you have Tiffany, and you have Aaron, who's the new girl in the bunch. I think which one is it? I think it's KJ. She goes to a Jewish school. Then there's the African American character. Then you got the badass one that's not PC at all, and then you have the new girl.
Yeah.
All 4 of those different characters kind of stepping in here. Of course, the Mac, who's the badass, is smoking constantly throughout the thing, and she's always having. If she went to the police, she's like, this whatever. She has an attitude that she does not like any kind of authority at all, and she definitely shows that throughout the book. So it did kind of take like a supernatural twist to it. Were you expecting that when you first started reading it?
No, that kind of threw me for a loop. It starts off, the story is taking place essentially after Halloween night. That's really when it starts. So 4:30 in the morning on November 1st, 1988 is when it starts. And the girls are running into a bunch of older boys that are still out picking up the dregs of the trick-or-treating efforts, and they run into some guys, and then there's some harassment and whatnot, but that's really kind of what sets the stage. And then the girls encounter these other people, and they think that, oh, there's just more guys who are out to give us a rash of crap, and it turns out that they weren't guys at all. They were actually these creatures, and at this point you don't really know what they are. They're not making sounds or not talking like people or anything like that, and so you're kind of left wondering what is really going on with these creatures here. It sets the stage up for, even the girls talk about, are they monsters, are they aliens, are they demons, and you kind of go throughout the story kind of wondering, and then at the very end you kind of realize, whoa, this looks like they're actually time travelers. They're people dressed up and traveling back and forth in time.
Yeah, because at the end of that first book, they end up, the one girl gets her walkie-talkie stolen by these strange people and all this stuff, and they think it's somebody else. They're trying to track them down, and of course, Max gets on there to defend her friend. Hey, we're coming for you. We're going to find you. And they end up going to the vacant house and to find that machine that's down in the basement, and end up going off on them.
This machine that they find in the basement reminds me of that other 80s movie, the Space Explorer Kids.
Explorers.
Yeah, that's the name of the movie. It reminded me of Explorers.
And they couldn't find, like, the machine turns on, and it looks like it kind of fries them. Shows their skeleton through the bright light, and they end up catching up with the kids again, and they're speaking this weird language. We can't even read it because it's in a different language. So we don't know what they're saying at all. We just know that they're speaking. I think, at the end of the book, they end up catching one of the kids. They find out they're kids later on. And they have this is 1988, and one kid has an Apple iPod, and so that's kind of like that's kind of the end of that story. And another thing that's kind of interesting about this too is so one of those story tropes that who you think are the bad guys turn out not to be the bad guys. They're actually good guys. You know.
Yeah, it's kind of what they're trying to figure out this whole time. They think the bad guys are bad guys, and it turns out they're good guys, and the good guys they think are the bad guys. I mean, it just keeps going back and forth. And at the very end, I'm still not even sure who the bad guys are, because there's a story that these battling forces, because the three guys that are dressed up that we look like goons at first that we're not sure who they are, we end up getting like these other people that start presenting themselves kind of like futuristic people. Their language is a little bit off. You can tell it's English, but it's kind of messed up, and they're looking for the goon guys, and then these kids are kind of caught in this battle between them, and the goon guys are saying these are the bad guys, and then the futuristic people are saying no, they're the bad guys, and the kids really can't even tell.
When it comes to later on, we kind of find out a little more backstory on Mac too. We kind of find out her living situation with the drunk stepmom and probably the drunk dad. So she has a hard background, so that kind of relays something into her attitude and her behavior and stuff. So that's kind of interesting to have that kind of in there as well.
One thing that was a little puzzling to me is at the beginning of the story you have these kind of peripheral characters, and they kind of end up just disappearing as you go forward in the book. They run into a guy that's in a wolf mask, and then he just kind of disappears, and then you have the guys that interacted with him at the very beginning, and they disappear, and then everybody's family's gone, but they go to Mac's house, and suddenly Mac's stepmom is there, and they have this interaction with her, but she's, if not the last person, one of the last people that appear to be from their time period. And so it's interesting that this people of all people just kind of shows up, and the stepmom's really putting this as a religious thing. This is like the end of time. She's saying all of these, everybody disappeared, and your dad disappeared because he was a good guy, and this is just like there's that thing, and we're damned. That's why we weren't taken away either. And then she goes to kill herself, and Mac tries to stop her. Of course, somebody else ends up getting shot, and then that's the end of that book.
Yeah, there's some more teenagers here that they're I
don't even understand how that fit in there, actually.
I think it's just a little more explanation to the story. There's this random teenagers, and that they're getting killed, or introduction to these new characters that are trying to find those.
Oh, that's right.
The original three that they think were the ones that kidnapped, or not kidnapped, but stole the walkie-talkie.
Yep. And then here comes random dinosaur things.
The
pterodactyls, giant, huge pterodactyls are flying all over the place, and these futuristic people are riding them with futuristic weapons, and it was completely random to me. It's like, oh, here's a dinosaur. Boink.
Yep. Pretty much. We find out that one of the three guys that
the
goon-looking guys end up getting killed. Was that the boyfriend of one of them, or was that just?
It might have been. I hadn't put that connection to it, but it may be.
I know, because the one guy was pretty emotional that he got killed.
Yeah, one of the three goon guys got killed. That must be who he was talking about with what they did to my boyfriend.
Maybe. Yeah. Like I said, you can't read what the dialogue says. It's just all in their language. The one girl is who got shot is kind of fading in and out of consciousness, sees Ronald Reagan and talking to him.
That was really funny.
And then they end up running into the guy that was riding on the pterodactyl.
Yeah, and Mac's mom, when she was ranting about the end of time, she was talking about Dukakis. It was funny with the political, reminding people of the political conflict that was present at that time.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that they're talking about is to help set the stage for the 1988 is the newspapers that they're delivering have like the Iran talks going badly,
Contra affair and stuff like that. Yeah.
God, I remember having to listen to that on the radio when I was little.
And here you're talking about with the guy that's riding a pterodactyl, he ends up running into the girls, and that's when you start questioning: are these good guys or are these bad guys? They're saying that the goon guys are the bad guys, but the goon guys are saying these, or we don't find out. But the goon guys say that these guys are the bad guys. Yeah. So it's kind of confusing on who actually is. So it's
everybody's like, and these futuristic guys at this point are like, come with me and I'll save you. I'll save your friend, because the girls are just trying to figure out how to get to a hospital to help their friend who was accidentally shot when Mac's mom tried to kill herself. And then
the goon guys show up and end up capping the pterodactyl dude.
Right when the girls are like, okay, we'll go with these guys and they'll help us, then the goon guys come and kill them. Or attack him, and then now we're questioning again.
And now we finally get a full facial reveal of the goon guys. They're kind of distorted. They kind of look like they have scars and
some mechanical
stuff throughout their faces. Their eyes are kind of weird. They show their eyes earlier in the book, but they're kind of a triangle shaped kind of pupil. And I ended up getting the translator from I'm assuming they must have picked it up from the guy they shot to be able to speak with the girls.
That was? Okay, yeah.
So they're using that so they can translate into English. So they can
to us.
That's what the guy back here was doing as well.
I was wondering why we could understand them all of a sudden.
Yeah, see, he was doing the same thing.
Oh, yeah. See?
So now we can finally understand the goon guys and what they're telling the girls. And then it opens up to
and we find out the goon guys are teenagers at this point.
Yeah, we find out they're teenagers as well.
So that kind of brings the girls, oh, those are teenagers too. Okay, so maybe they're on our side? I don't know.
Yeah, and then it opens up to some old dude, white beard, white hair, wearing a Public Enemy shirt. That character was kind of funny just because it just, again, this is the 90s stuff, or 80s stuff, yeah.
Old guy wearing Public Enemy shirt.
Yeah.
Like the band, right?
Yeah. And he's giving directions to these pterodactyl riding people. While the teenagers, the girls, and the goons are kind of going through the sewer, leading them, and they're saying they're supposed to be able to help their friend that got shot. They said they can help heal her.
Yeah, here, hurry, come with us. We'll help your friend, type thing.
Or maybe this was the guy that was. I thought another one died too. Another one of the goon guys. Maybe just gets shot by this green orb-looking thing with eyeballs.
In the sewer, they find this green orb with tentacles and then square-shaped eyeballs at the very end of the tentacles floating around in the air.
That's tracking them, I guess. And then they didn't even find out that they were being tracked.
This part right here, that tentacle thing gets its tentacle wrapped around. Who is this? Is that
I think that is.
It's not Aaron. It's the other one.
Tiffany
wrapped around Tiffany's neck, and then her life starts flashing before her eyes, and this just cracks me up. It's her life as she's sitting in front of the TV playing an old Nintendo or Atari.
It is probably an Atari.
An Atari. So her life is flashing before her eyes, and it's just day after day and panel after panel of her playing video games stuck on different rounds. And a little bit later when she's talking to her friends, she's like, oh my god, my life just flashed before my eyes and it was all spent in front of a video game. It just cracked me up because I'm pretty sure if I were to relive that time of my life and have it flash before my eyes, it would have been in front of Nintendo playing Super Mario Brothers for sure.
Or even our kids today.
Yeah.
It's the same thing.
Not that different, actually.
No. But now my time's usually it'd be in front of YouTube. I'd be
Yeah.
like, oh my god, I've spent so many hours watching YouTube. I haven't done anything in my life. Or reading comic books. So they end up killing that green orb, or the one guy, one of the goons does. It sinks down in there. They end up coming out of the sewer into the woods. Of course, Mac has to light a cigarette up as soon as she's out. She's like a chain smoker, I think. Mm-hmm. They end up putting I don't know if we want to give away who was the one that got shot, but into the same kind of machine that we found in the basement. We find out it's very organic. It has some kind of organic...
A fleshy material.
Yeah, it's kind of gross.
It looks like almost like a uterus.
Yeah.
On the inside. Like the inside of a uterus. Look, it's got... Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so. I never have seen the inside of a uterus, but thanks for that picture.
Well...
So they end up going in there. The one teenager goon guy and the injured friend end up going into this machine, and it just disappears. And the other three girls in there. Oh, what do? Well, we just sent our friend off, and we have no clue what happened. And all of a sudden now that gave away. They were positioned. The pterodactyl people are going to be trying to attack now as we go into. I think it's book 5. Okay, that guy did survive getting shot by the green orb. And then it comes into, they have this big, huge warehouse where they're storing all the stuff they're collecting from the past.
It was they didn't call it a warehouse. They called it a Wen house.
The Wen house?
The Wen house. Isn't that neat? So it kind of goes.
Oh,
along
instead
with
of
that,
where, when.
Yeah.
Oh, gotcha. that flew right over my head.
That looks really kind of weird upside down, that picture.
So the girl who got shot now, she is inside this machine still, looking out through the door where the two goon guys are in the Wen house, and she looks down, and there are a whole bunch of bugs
crawling over her tummy.
Yeah, eating dead skin or healing, and that's how they heal. And I'm surprised she did not absolutely freak out at that point.
Yeah.
But it's like, oh, okay.
And she's attached to this uterus, inside of a uterus thing, by these kind of fleshy appendage things. It looks really weird.
And then they start to give a little more backstory, the goons do, to who they are. It says, we're more scavengers than thieves, really. Yesterday's trash is tomorrow's treasure. And so they start talking about the stuff they're picking up throughout time. And there's more of the Iran-Iraq peace talks on paper there. Then it goes into... It talks about where they are. She asks where they are. They're just above the Mesosphere in 88. And then all of a sudden, bam, Nope, I thought that was the next part, but I guess not. So the three girls left in that field in the forest. They're approached by the pterodactyl people. And or I guess there's only one person. The female that the public enemy dude was talking to. And again, she's trying to tell them, hey, no, we're the good guys. Hold on, wait a minute. And it's a big old long thing. They threaten her with the pistol because they still have it. And the one girl grabs her spear or whatever that is.
Yeah, the future girl's weapon, and accidentally shoots it, just like she accidentally shot the revolver earlier and accidentally shot her friend. This time, she accidentally shoots the future person.
Knocks her out. No, yeah, just rings her bell.
Yeah.
Doesn't kill her. And then it shoots back to the old dude. Now he's wearing an Apple Records, which is, do you know Apple Records? Do you know who the famous people on Apple Records?
No.
Beatles were on Apple Records. So he's kind of like a hippie. I think. Well, a hippie wearing Public Enemy shirts. I don't know about that, but.
And then we get to the very end, and that guy's talking to the future girl that got shot, and as he's walking through a different type of room, which reminds me sort of like the concept of the Matrix or some of those futuristic movies where the people are suspended in animation inside these jars in like a fluid. And it's so that's this room that's filled with these pod things, and it's all the peripheral characters that we saw kind of in and out of the storyline earlier. They're all kept in these pods, and this Public Enemy guy is just walking through chit-chatting on his little communicator thing.
Yeah, so even the boy and girl that were in a football field, they were originally approached by the pterodactyl people. We thought they were killed, but apparently they're here in these tubes. And then it goes back to her kind of dreaming. I guess she's the one that kind of, at the very beginning too, she's dreaming as well about her sister dying and being meet by a demon.
Oh yeah, I think what happened is while she's in that little chair inside the uterus thing, she kind of starts dreaming, and here we are back inside the uterus. She's dreaming about being a little girl and her dad's flesh coming off his face. It's weird.
And we got this panel here with the two goon guys inside that machine. The one guy, he has his arm attached through the wall as well as attached through his friend's head. So I don't know. That's kind of where maybe it's a time warp thing that's making him more, able to pass through things. I don't know.
Yeah, and they're planning on dropping her off back in her time. And somehow or another, I'm not quite sure what happens, but how it happens, but suddenly she's back on Earth coming out of that uterus thing, but the guys aren't there anymore, and they're back in the basement where they initially found that uterus pod thing, and she's stumbling out, and her friends are there.
And she's healed, I think, right? They don't really show that, do they? I think
it's implied.
Yeah, I think it's implied. They show the bugs leaving. There we go.
Yeah,
I'm alive. I'm really. You're awake. So, as they're in the basement, they hear that old hippie dude outside. To listen to your elders and come out to this instant, and he's talking through the wall. And I don't think they really want to go outside. So they can't stay in there. I think they end up going back into the machine. Is that correct?
I don't know. I couldn't really tell.
Or the machine
disappears.
I think the house
just suddenly blows up, and you see people falling through space and time. And you see there's a panel that says 1999, and then all of a sudden all the girls are on the ground again on the street. And they get up, they're kind of dazed and like, oh my gosh, what happened? Is everybody here? What's going on? And a car approaches them and then stops. And then suddenly the person getting out of the car is the older version of one of them. So that's where it cliffhangs for us.
And like I said this was issue 1 through 5. It goes clear through. I think it's on issue 26 now. A lot of people actually praise this book and say it's absolutely great. The story continues and it gets better and better. I've talked to a couple people at the comic store about it, and I told them that we were going to be reading this, and they said this is awesome, absolutely awesome, and it gets better.
Yeah, artwork is good. It's pretty edgy. They use a lot of different colors and. I like that. There's not that traditional like superhero or anything. These are all like real clothes, real time period piece. There's some great jeans from 1988.
Yeah, like almost like stonewashed kind of. What do they call it? Tight at the ankles, kind of
pegged pants.
The pegged pants, yeah.
Yeah, and then the girls are wearing like a Letterman's jacket and a jean jacket, and so everything is really time period appropriate. But the use of color is like different in each page. So like if it's a really bright scene, then you'll have all these different shades of yellow for all the characters. If it's a dark scene, then the color scheme is like a dark purple, and so it'll all be different shades of purple. And so they really use the color in this to kind of pop out different panels and tell the story and kind of bring the artwork alive as you go through the book.
What'd you think of the story in general? I mean, was it something? Would you read book 2 if book 2 was out?
Well, yeah, because I'm a sucker for a cliffhanger, so I kind of want to see what happens next. It's really random, so yeah, I'm curious as to see what happens next. Try to see how everything fits together. I'm curious to see what happens with it and what other aspects of 1988, or if they've really jumped to 1999, what aspects of 1999 they bring out.
I could see this as like a Netflix series, just like Stranger Things, just like everything else. I can definitely see that as a. I don't know if it would really work as a movie. I think a lot of this stuff is great in like the hour formats on Netflix and stuff like that, because it keeps you really invested, I think, versus 2 hours just movies. You have to cut so much out of.
No, it needs to be in like shorter episodes. I can even see like
each issue being one episode.
Each issue being like 35-40 minute episode on a show. Can totally see that.
Okay. Last question I got for you too is, out of the 4 characters, the 4 girls in here, which do you relate to most?
Well, not Matt, because I was never that tough, badass girl for sure. Let's see. I don't know. I don't know that I had enough character development on the other three girls to really know for sure. There's the main character's name is Erin. She's the one with the little sister. So I never had like a little sister or anything. So I'm not 100% sure, but possibly KJ. Yeah, she's kind of...
She's the one that carries the hockey stick around,
She's
right?
the one that carries the hockey stick around. She's kind of tough. She kind of is the one that kind of calls the shots and the one that kind of makes mistakes, and she's just kind of a part of it. So,
is she more level-headed, do you think, of the group versus like a Mac? Mac can be kind of spur of the moment, make decisions that are brash and can potentially put themselves in more danger because of just the attitude.
Yeah, perhaps. I don't know. It's almost too early to tell. I would have been the kid at home, not outside delivering papers at 4:40 in the morning. I would have been asleep in my little bed.
So you might not have been any of these characters, or see you would be one of these characters.
Oh, maybe I would be one of the peripheral characters in the pods later on. Yeah. That would be me.
So that's the end of book 1 or volume 1 of Paper Girls. We got a few other books to. We have a few other books to choose from for next episode. We have Witches Volume 1, which is by Snyder and Jock. We have Saga, which is same writer as Paper Girls, Brian Vaughan. Fiona Staples as the art. Unnatural by, I can never pronounce her name, Mirka Andolfo. Mm-hmm. She was one who was supposed to be at C2E2.
She's the one that drew the piggy people?
She's the piggy people.
Okay.
Yes. And then Rat Queens by Curtis Wiebe and Rock, I'm reading upside down.
Rock Up Church.
I don't know why they can't have normal names. And so these are all Image books. And the reason I'm kind of picking these books, I thought it'd be interesting to read.
Do I get to pick which book we read next?
You can pick which one we want. We'll also have the Infinity Gauntlet, which I thought was kind of interesting because we have the second part of Avengers coming out the end of April, and that's a storyline from that whole book. Now, the only problem with going like a Marvel book or a DC book, it has, Marvel has 60, 70 years of continuity and history to all these characters, and a slew of characters in this book.
And backstory,
yeah. Versus like these books where they're all new. They're not superhero related. They're not a whole lot of complete history like the other Marvel or DC books. So that's why I'm kind of choosing these and kind of trying to pick something that you may be interested in reading. You can open it up if you wanted as well. So completely different stories. Saga, I've heard, is awesome. A lot of people still talk about Saga. Drew Manchu loves Saga.
Actually, yeah. So initially I was looking at Witches because normally that would be the first thing I would go to. But then I started looking at my caveat about one of the reasons I don't read comics is because of the handwriting, and they all yell at me because they write in all caps. And Saga's the only one where they don't write in all caps.
Oh, really?
So let's read that one next.
Okay, Saga is next, then we'll get this one edited and into books and on the podcast. And then we'll be looking forward to Saga. Probably do it next month. So make sure you come check out our YouTube channel, Blasted or Stashy, where we review the live comics every week, the one that come out on Wednesday. Check out our podcast on Podbean, Blasted or Stash It, our Facebook page, our Instagram, our Twitter, all that good social media stuff. Follow us on there. And we're looking forward to putting some more content out for you in the future. And this is just one of them. So this is part of the Blasted or Stash It. Oh my goodness, what was I going to call it?
Projects?
No, Blasted or Stash. Gosh dang it, I had it. I can edit all my voice out here. Part of the Blasted or Stash It podcasting network. That works. So later, guys. Thank you. You can say bye to it.
Oh, bye.